Well, hello, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Our next trolley stop is here, and our next trolley stop is now. Welcome back to another all-new episode of PR from the Heart's Children's Book Spotlight Series. To be precise, we have reached episode number 233. That is the 233rd trolley stop here at PR from the Heart here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series. My name is John Masiulionis, the manager of PR from the Heart and the host of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, joined as always every trolley stop by my faithful furry friend and forever companion, little Forrest, who also reminds me, he gives me that little gentle nudge. Hey, John, I'm not just your faithful friend and fellow journeyman in this walk that we like to call life, but in the process, he's also my co-host on the Children's Book Spotlight Series. So as always, little Forrest, we know that you're going to be contributing throughout the course of this trolley stop. We want to thank you for spending some quality time with us here in our neighborhood, wherever you are, wherever you may be. We hope that you are enjoying your 2025, the start of your new year, or perhaps your new year is just starting. Put a pin in that thread and we'll circle back in that momentarily. We're really excited about this particular trolley stop because if you've been with us since day one of the program over the course of these past 6+ years, or if you are new to our neighborhood, and if you are new to our neighborhood, welcome aboard. We're going to be having a fun time here today. It's always important that when we take the time to have one of these trolley stops here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series, when we are interviewing one of the shining stars in the KidLit community, that we do our part to be able to be very intentional about the messaging, what it is that we're sharing, what it is that we're communicating, especially for our little ones. We want to be able to do our part to make sure that they are loved, cared for, taken care of, and that they're reminded of very important things. And especially as we, as parents and caregivers and custodians of our little ones, when we start off the new year, how does the expression go? I think some people may say like a bat out of Hades, right? It's just a matter of you want to go, go, go. You want to do, because the holiday season, it's the time for slowing down, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, etc. Time to slow down, but then it's time to start speeding things up. But at the same point in time, even though we do have our goals and our things to do in our laundry list, so to speak, it's important that we take our time in doing whatever it is that we're doing. For all of our fellow children's authors that are out there, if you are in the process of writing your first book or you're writing your 5th book, or if you are an illustrator and you are bringing something, excuse me, to form and shape, whether it be a children's book, whether it be a painting or a drawing, if you're in the process of building your dream home, if you're in the process of doing anything, it's important that you take your time. It's long since been said, the phrase, patience pays. And you might be wondering, John, easier said than done, because in the hustle and bustle, in the rat race of life, we can get caught up in the to-dos instead of being more in the being. So thanks to a brand new children's book, we are being reminded each and every day of the importance of taking our time, doing whatever it is that we are doing. Because when we do that, the overall end result turns out that much more beautiful, and we have that much more to celebrate in the process. We encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course, our fellow shining stars, to head on over to the official website of our featured guest here on episode number 233 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, which we've included in the description below. If you also head on over to Amazon.com, if that is your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, you can purchase your copy of Ping's Perfect Pot. That's a lot of great alliteration. We want to mention that right off the bat, courtesy of our friends at Beaming Books. As we always like to say here on the program, we've had several children's authors represented by the team at Beaming Books over the years. Who wouldn't want to have their book be published by Beaming Books? The name of the publishing company, it's great. Beaming Books. You're filled with joy. You're radiating. And of course, if you head on over to Amazon.com, and if that's your favorite online vehicle of your choosing, be sure to leave a 5-star review for Ping's Perfect Pot. That's just one of the many ways that you can pledge your support for Helen Wu to let her know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and for those who love great children's books in the process as well. If you head on over to your favorite local library, your favorite children's or independent bookstore, and they stock their copies of Ping's Perfect Pot, fantastic. If they do not, make that kind recommendation. Let them know that you heard about Ping's Perfect Pot right here on episode number 233 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. And for all educators, teachers, principals, librarians, school superintendents, you can head on over to Helen's official website to schedule your author school visit, because not only are we celebrating Lunar New Year on the Children's Book Spotlight series, but the energy, the magic, the feeling, the ambiance of Lunar New Year can be felt all year long. So educators in San Diego, Southern California, across the country and around the world, again, head on over to Helen's official website, which we've included in the description below. It's always good, not only when we have authors who are published by Beaming Books on the program, but authors who are from America's finest city to all the other cities out there in the country. San Diego, the name of San Diego is actually America's finest city. So the trolley doesn't have to travel very far. We literally go from San Diego to San Diego. Joining us here as our feature guest on episode number 233 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, children's book author, illustrator, and publisher, Helen Wu. Helen, Happy New Year. Happy Lunar New Year, in fact, as well, too. Thank you for spending some quality time with little Forrest and I. How are things with you today?
Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super, super excited to be here to share my new book, Ping's Perfect Pot, and my author journey with you all. So first, I want to have a short introduction of myself. I'm Helen H. Wu. I'm a children's book author, illustrator, translator, and a publisher. My book includes Tofu Takes Time, Long Goes to Dragon School, Ping's Perfect Pot, and I'm also the author, illustrator of story and the coloring book, Capybara Zen and Everyday Happy. I'm also the founder of a new brand called Capi Farm. It's a brand featuring books, toys, fashion inspired by a capybara-themed Zen lifestyle. And fascinated by the differences and the similarities between cultures, I love to share stories that empower children to understand the world and our connections. And I was born and raised in China, and I moved to the States in my 20s, and now I live in the sunny Southern California and San Diego with my family. And thank you so much for having me today, and I can't wait to share all my books and journey with you all.
We definitely have a lot to get into, but before we officially start at the top, the forefront, and the onset, Helen, for everyone who is joining us for the first time, or if you have been a part of our journey here in the Children's Book Spotlight series from day one, just a little brief housekeeping note. One of the many ways that you can also pledge your support, not only for Helen, but for us here at PR from the Heart and for the Children's Book Spotlight series. If these messages that we are sharing, we're talking about taking your time. If you're saying, you know what, this is a divine message, I need to be hearing this today. The importance of celebrating your craft. When you take the time with whatever it is you're doing, and you have that much more to celebrate and to be proud of. And if anything, of course, if you are a big fan of children's literature in the process, there's many different messages within the message that we're going to be sharing here in episode number 233 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. If you haven't had the chance to do so, we encourage you to subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel. Join the more than 23,000 members of the PR from the Heart family. It's hard to believe our loyal subscriber base on YouTube is rapidly approaching 25,000 subscribers if you are watching in real time. Again, so we encourage you to subscribe to this particular trolley stop. That is episode, again, number 233, and share it with your favorite social media platforms of your choosing, whether that be, there's so many different social media platforms. This allows Helen to be able to share her message. And of course, this particular trolley stop of the Children's Book Spotlight series, we're beaming this out into the world. So again, especially if this message needs to be shared with someone in need, if you know someone that's navigating through the, I need to keep doing, and someone that needs to especially hear the message of taking your time, again, share this special trolley stop on your favorite social media platforms of your choosing. Helen, you have literally traveled far and wide to this particular point in time, literally from China to San Diego. We always start off the program to connect with an author, or in this particular instance, an author illustrator's journey, because we all have a story. We all have an origin story, specifically speaking. Could you share with us really where it first all began for you, when you knew that a large part of your purpose your mission, some people will use the term even dharma, was actually meant for children, to better the lives of children? Was it a specific event in your life? Was it a specific series of events or circumstances? Could you share with us a little bit more about that if you could?
Yeah, of course. I want to, since my major was economics, and I was born and raised in China. And when I was little, I back then we didn't have many like a typical children's picture books like here we have in the States. We have mostly like comic books or black white comic books. So around me, I didn't see many jobs or careers around like art related or like illustrators. So even I had a passion for art and for storytelling, but I didn't pursue that as a profession. So I studied economics and I went to a graduate school in the States for economics. But during here, I started to look for jobs like for marketing. So for marketing, I need to like self-taught myself Photoshop. So when I search all those tutorials online, I found people put up their digital portfolio online. So it kind of like remind me of my hobby of drawing and illustrating. So I start to put up my digital portfolio online, and to my surprise, someone came to me to ask me to illustrate their children's picture books. That's how I discovered this industry of children's book illustration. So I start to illustrate many self-published authors' books, and for like as an illustrator, I actually need to did all the steps from like layout design, cover design, illustration. So basically, I familiar myself with the whole process of book publishing, and I have so many stories I want to tell. And my son was born, and it also inspired me to write children's stories. So I start to write and illustrate my own children's book and self-publish many of them. So after I had like dozens of books published on Amazon, self-published, I start to wonder why my books couldn't get into libraries or like getting to bookstores or Barnes Noble. And then I start to discover the difference between self-publishing and the traditional publishing, and how the printing, like the technique of printing, like the format of books, like you have to print information on the spine. That's how the book should be formatted to get your book into like libraries and bookstores. So I discovered the different routes of traditional publishing, and I start to submit my manuscript to traditional publishers. And my first title, Tofu Takes Time, was accepted by Biming Books. And that's like that I officially started as a traditional published author. And since then I published several more titles, and including Pink's Perfect Pot, Long Goes the Dragon School, and all these stories I waved my Chinese culture background and my immigrant experience into the story. This writing experience, I all inspired by my own experience, and it remind me that everyone has a story to tell. Everyone is unique, and you just need to keep writing, keep working, and keep pursuing your dreams.
And that's beautifully shared, because this leads into my next question is that whenever we have a vision, we want to do something, and especially when we're learning a new craft, or even just throughout this journey called life, we can experience challenges, difficulties, obstacles, problems, stressors, troubles, worries. Everything always turns out the way that it should. I'm a firm believer of that. But oftentimes we'll navigate through some emotional stuff along the way. Specifically of note, whether it be with Ping's Perfect Pot, just whether it be through your life as well, what are some of the notable challenges and difficulties that you experienced along the way? And what were some of the specific things that helped you to get through to the other side of those challenges and difficulties?
Yeah, like when I first started writing and submitting my manuscripts to publishers, I got tons of rejections. Like for Tofu Takes Time and Long Goes Dragon School, I got over 50 or sometimes even 100 rejections through different publishers. But on one hand, I feel like discouraged when I receive a rejection. But I also sometimes I got feedback how to improve those manuscripts and how to improve my writing, and what publishers or editor they're really looking for. And this all helped me to refine my craft and to get better and better. So I think that's even sometimes you get rejection or have setbacks, and it's really important to remember that the journey is the most important thing, and you are actually learning and you are growing and you are getting better and you know yourself better, and you also will really gain some great progress through the whole journey.
And I'm glad that you also shared that as well too, because it's very easy if you're a parent, if you're an educator, someone who loves great children's books, if you head on over to your favorite bookstore or local library, and for example, if they see Ping's Perfect Pot, they may think, okay, Helen's life is super easy. She has no challenges, no difficulties because she's a published children's author. Not necessarily knowing the fact that, again, we're all human. We all navigate through, we're all going through something in any way, shape, or form. And this is why it's important that, children's books, there is I'm going to utilize some quotes from the late Mr. Rogers, who hosted, of course, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood on PBS, when he was trying to secure $20 million worth of funding for PBS in its early days. When he spoke in front of Capitol Hill, in front of Congress, he used the phrase, "What I do through Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood is a resource of care." So I share this because, especially if we have our kids who are navigating through any kind of challenge, the importance of children's books and reading children's books. We'll take the time to be able to cover that momentarily. So we'll, as we like to say here on the program, we'll put a pin in that and we'll circle back on that. Kind of tied into your origin story. I'm always fascinated. We've had the opportunity to interview children's authors literally from around the world, from all the way here in San Diego to China to Australia. Over the course of your life, what were some of the glaring differences? Obviously, cultural differences, and we're going to be talking more about that with Ping's Perfect Pot. But what were some of the specific things that maybe took you a little bit longer to kind of understand and get used to? Because when you're even if you're living in one city for a long period of time, and then you move to another completely different part of the country, another part of the world, it's going to take some time to acclimate.
Yeah. I think I want to mention one difference in like doing Chinese culture books in China or in the US. I think that's something really interests me, and like how the difference in different markets or different cultures. Like when I do Chinese culture, I do books about Chinese culture in China. Actually, readers there are looking for books with more sophisticated Chinese history or have really tied into the long history of China. But for when I do books here in the States with Chinese background, readers, maybe because readers here, they are not that familiar with Chinese culture, they would like to prefer some simple concept and content. For example, Lunar New Year, a book with like a Lunar New Year traditions or customs, that's perfect for US readers. But for this type of story, doesn't actually quite fit readers in China because they already know all the traditions of Lunar New Year, like even the 12 zodiac animals. They're pretty familiar with it. So books about those concepts are actually pretty hard to sell in Chinese market. And one of the best-selling Lunar New Year books in China is actually the main character is a fox. I can imagine how trouble is if I sell this type of book in the US. People will kind of like think the fox will be one of the 12 zodiac animals. So I think when it comes to culture, you really need to think about your readers, your readership, their background with the culture, and how sophisticated or what type of content they are really needed, they really need, and they can also relate to, and also understand the background of culture, and also gaining something new. So it's something very interesting when I do books about Chinese culture in both markets.
And it's I'm really excited about King's Perfect Pot, as well as having the opportunity to read and enjoy Tofu Takes Time, is that especially for children, parents, families, educators, anyone who loves children's books. And if they're not necessarily familiar about culture in a different part of the world, One of the great ways to learn about that is through children's books. And specifically, of course, we're going to be talking momentarily about, in the process, Ping's Perfect Pot. For those, again, who are just spending some quality time with us here, we always appreciate it. Thank you for joining us here on episode number 233 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. We are about ready to crack the cover and dive into the pages of Ping's Perfect Pot, the newest children's book from our featured guest here on the program, children's book author, illustrator, and publisher, Helen Wu. One of the many ways you can pledge your support for Helen is by heading on over to Amazon.com. If that's your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, you can leave a 5-star review for Ping's Perfect Pot if you feel guided and inclined to do so. Again, that lets Helen know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and for those who love great children's books. Again, special shout out to our friends and neighbors at Beaming Books for beaming another beautiful book into the world. If you head on over to your favorite local library, your favorite children's or independent bookstore, and if they do not stock their copies of Ping's Perfect Pot, make the kind recommendation. Let them know that you heard about it right here on episode number 233 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, because remember, we're not just celebrating Lunar New Year right now. You can celebrate Lunar New Year all year long as well. And again, you can, if you are an educator, teacher, principal, librarian, school superintendent, if you want your students, whether it be in the 2025 school year or beyond, to learn more about the cultures overseas, in addition to Lunar New Year and so much more, head on over to Helen's official website, which we've included in the description below, so that you can connect with her to facilitate your own author school visit for your little ones, because they will learn so much. One of the favorite times here in a Children's Book Spotlight series episode, Helen, one of our favorite moments during the program is when we take the time to actually crack the cover and dive into the pages of the featured children's book that we are sharing. I love this book on so many different fronts. I had the chance to read it and enjoy it with little Forrest, and he also enjoyed it. We'll talk more about that momentarily as well. But it's, initially when I saw the book, I'm like, okay, this is a book tied into Lunar New Year. But then I always feel it's not to say that children's books need to have messages that really strike that socio-emotional component, kids connecting with their emotions and with their feelings, because sometimes children's books are just fun, right? And then there's children's books that are, they're about poop, right? Because, of course, children's are going to love books about poop, right? But whenever there's some deeper takeaways, we're going to talk about persistence momentarily as well, and some of the other threads within the book. But there's obviously the origin story of Ping's Perfect Pot. So the cool thing about a Children's Book Spotlight series episode, there's at least 2 origin stories. There's the origin of the author, and then there's the origin of the book that we're featuring and spotlighting. Could you share with us when you first received that download, that divine download, when you knew that this story needed to be shared? And then we'll obviously talk about the story as well, too.
Yeah. So first I want to have a short introduction of the whole story, and then I will share the inspiration or the message. So the story is about the Lunar New Year is coming, and when Ping and her grandpa brings home a tangerine tree, it's a symbol of prosperity and good luck. And Ping wants to make it truly special by creating the perfect pot for it. And through her journey, Ping not only learns about crafting, but also discovers the value of perseverance, creativity, and embracing imperfections. And her story is a celebration of both tradition and the beauty of learning and growing through challenges. And through it all, her grandpa's guidance and encouragement reflects the central role of family in Lunar New Year and in Chinese culture. And when coming together, sharing wisdom, creating meaningful moments, and this is something that truly makes this holiday special. And Ping's journey reminds us that it's not about the perfection, but about the love, care, and the joy we bring into things that we do and the people we share them with. And when it comes to the inspiration of Ping's Perfect Pot, actually it was inspired by my dad. So he had a green thumb and a talent for creating unique pots for his plants and flowers. And each plant has its own special crafted pot. I was always in awe of his creativity and resourcefulness, but sometimes I thought the store-bought pots were more beautiful. But my dad always remind me that his DIY pots are more about recycling and giving new life to materials, like not needed materials. So just like the plants he nurtured, my dad's pot started as something humble and transformed into something lush and beautiful. And he taught me the best results often come from our own hands and where we put love and care into our creations. So combining the art of pot making, creativity with Lunar New Year traditions and celebrations was a natural fit for this story. So Lunar New Year is a time of new beginnings and growth, much like the process of creating something we love.
There's having the opportunity to interview countless children's authors and illustrators over the years, and now this is the 233rd episode of the program. I want to share this, not even just because you're joining me on the program. This is one of the most beautifully written and illustrated books that little Forrest and I, and then even before little Forrest came into the world, because he's been here for the past like little over 2 years, and the program's been going for 6 years. This is one of the most beautifully written and illustrated books that I've seen.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
It's the brightness, the flair, the connection to family, loved ones, friends. Again, there's so many messages within the message. I want to be able to share a few key things specifically before we get into some of the messages and themes that we were already alluding to and kind of diving a little bit deeper. But you see the deep relationship, you see the bond between Ping and her grandfather. And for example, even though it's slightly different, growing up, I had a very strong relationship with my grandmother. And there's something when you're a little one, there's something about the bond and the connection between, between grandmother and grandfather, grandson, granddaughter. And so you're able to beautifully weave that in. Let's talk about that specifically speaking, because again, there could have been different characters, right? You could have had a grandson and a grandmother. You could have had a little brother and an older brother. Specifically speaking, could you share this a little bit more? Why it was important to you to have the dynamic be with Ping and her grandfather? Why was that so meaningful to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for Lunar New Year, it's a time for family reunion. That's why I think we need to have a family member there. And usually for like a family reunion, it's not just your own family, but with like your grandparents and with aunts and uncles. So usually back in my home, we like a reunion at my grandma's home. So I think with an elderly as the main character in the story, it's also very important for this Lunar New Year themed story. And I have another book called Tofu Takes Time. That book features a girl and her grandma. So I think it's perfect. This book features the girl and her grandpa. And also since this book was inspired by my dad, who had a green thumb and also very resourceful at crafting pots and all the crafts. So I think as a grandpa, is also one of the main characters, kind of like really special for me to have my dad as the inspiration of the story. So for all those reasons, I chose to have the grandpa in this story. So I think for writers, for a story, it literally, you can even set the story in the forest or in in a different setting and with all types of characters. They don't have to be family. They can be a group of friends or maybe even animals to celebrate Lunar New Year. But I think the reason you chose the setting and the characters really has to be something meaningful to you and have something really tied to your inspiration and the message you want to deliver.
And this may be the first children's book that I've read about pot making. I am fascinated about pot making right now. So again, you never know what happens until you crack the cover of a new children's book. Lunar New Year, people may have heard about it, but they may not necessarily know about it. For those who are, there's a there's an expression that's out there, and I'll try to have it be as soft as possible, but talk to me like a fifth grader would understand it. If there's, let's say, a fifth grader that's watching the children's book Spotlight series, or someone that's been around for a long period of time that has heard the Lunar New Year, maybe they've seen some footage on television of Lunar New Year celebrations. Could you share with us specifically what Lunar New Year is, and some of the ways in which it's celebrated?
Yeah, sure. So Lunar New Year is also called Spring Festival or Chinese New Year. It's one of the most significant and widely celebrated festivals in many Asian cultures, and it marks the beginning of the lunar calendar and typically falls between late January and mid-February. And the festival is a time of joy, reunion, and new beginnings. And Lunar New Year originated over 3,500 years ago in ancient China. It was traditionally a time to honor ancestors and to welcome spring's arrival. And the celebrations typically last 15 days and include customs such as cleaning the house to sweep away bad luck, decorating with red lanterns and couplets, and enjoy festival meals with symbolic foods such as dumplings and whole fish. And fireworks and line dancers are performed to drive away evil spirits. And the giving of red envelopes from elderly to young generations also symbolize blessings and good luck and prosperity. And the festival concludes with the Lantern Festival, and where families gather to admire lantern displays and enjoy sweet rice dumplings. And these all symbolize unity and happiness.
And one of the things that, whether it be we're celebrating the Lunar New Year or the New Year overall of 2025, no evil spirits. We don't want any evil spirits with us now, 2025, moving forward from here as well. Some of the other specific messages, and this really goes back to the theme, the anthem of episode number 233 of the children's book Spotlight series, the importance of taking our time. It may seem like a very duh, right? Like we should take our time with whatever it is that we're doing. Specifically speaking, from your perspective, having a family, being a children's book author, illustrator, you're a great creator, and you're a fellow human being as well, too, especially now in 2025. Why is it important that we take our time with whatever it is that we do?
Yeah, I think it's important for us, for children, for adults to know that mistakes and setbacks are a natural part of learning and growing. And this Pink's story shows that when something feels hard or doesn't work out right away, it's okay to take a break, try again, and embrace the process. And I want kids to see that the effort and love they put into something are just as important as the end result. And sometimes the imperfections make what we create even more special. So as I've seen in Pink's Perfect Pot, creativity and perseverance can lead to wonderful things, and even if they're not perfect. And the joy of making something with your own hands and giving new life to materials is a gift in itself. So whether it's a pot or for a tangerine tree or a painting or story or anything that sparks your imagination, embrace your uniqueness and embrace imperfections. Take your time, enjoy the journey, and let your creativity bloom like a beautiful garden in the spring.
And that's something that we need to be reminded of. Because again, as I mentioned just a few moments ago, one of my favorite words and expressions, duh, right? Like you should take your time. You should smell the roses. You hear the expression, take the time and smell the roses. But when we get just caught up in life, and especially if, we're moving through some emotional challenges, we're moving through some triggers, we may forget the simple things. And it's important that we have these simple yet important yet timely reminders. So we really love that we're giving you a timely reminder and putting this out there to remind you to take your time. There's the theme of persistence and moving through. It's very easy to just say, you know what, this isn't right. Maybe it's not for me, especially if you're moving through something for the first time. So from where we are recording this episode of the Children's Book Spotlight series to when it is being beamed out into the world, I have just finished everything tied into the release of my first children's book. And more is going to be shown on future episodes of the Children's Book Spotlight series. So stay tuned. We're going to cover all of that and then some. But it took me a while. It took me literally, I would say, 5, 6, 7+ years to move through different kinds of things like imposter syndrome. We all have that in some way, shape, or form. Like, I'm the publicist guy. I'm not the children's author guy, right? And so the importance of connecting to persistence, moving through. One of the reasons why I'm bringing this up, we always love to provide some useful information, especially for those who really enjoy the program, parents, caregivers, grandparents, educators, so that they can immediately extract that tangible information, tips, tools, strategies. They can extract that information, not only for themselves and implement it into their own lives, but also to help implement it in the lives of their children, their grandchildren, their students in the process. What are some specific ways in which we can help our kids to inspire them to never give up, to connect to persistence? There's many different ways in which we can do that, but what are, let's say, 2 or 3 that come to mind specifically for you?
Yeah, I think I would have like a calendar to just write down have a calendar or like a schedule what steps to do. Like you can break out the big task into like smaller tasks. Like you probably achieve some steps in like 1 week. You make certain types of progress, and then you break out into smaller tasks, and these will help you to move forward 1 step at a time. And it's also important to just to keep things in track. And if you if you stuck there, but you can like take a break, but make sure you get back to where you are. Even you are kind of like do this thing again, but it will help you to just to make sure you are on the right track. So I will also get inspiration from my like a fellow, no matter authors or creators or like the icons you really admire, and you can really get inspired from what they do, and they might provide some really new inspirations for you, and even give you some creativity ways, and to kind of like achieve the goal by another route also. I do children's book writing, illustrating, but I actually got inspiration from licensing. So now I'm doing more like journals or like coloring books, which is also part of book industry, but it's kind of like a different genre than like a typical children's books. That's some inspiration I get from other creators and like a fellow publishing business. So that's you keep a calendar and also like get inspiration from fellow creators. So I think those are kind of like the 2 most important things that I keep me moving forward, and also keep me just achieve really hard goals in the long term. But yeah, I'm kind of like a 1 step at a time, and just progress steadily to that goal. Yeah.
And your book also mentions, just to kind of piggyback off of what you shared, 2 of my favorite passages in the book tie into ways in which we can remind our children and help our children to be able to connect to their persistence, right? Because every child, every adult, we have the ability to persevere and to move through anything, and we have the opportunity to connect to our courage as well too, and to most importantly the belief in ourselves. So there's a quote here in the story, and Grandpa says it perfectly: "A perfect pot takes practice. Keep it up." So if there's a little one in your life, whether it be a child or a grandchild, next door neighbor, if you're a caregiver of a little one, the importance of taking the time to share that with the little one in your life. The fact that practice, that Rome wasn't built in a day. We're always big on expressions here on the Children's Book Spotlight series, but you've heard, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Rome wasn't built in a day. It's long since been said that when you're starting a brand new craft, I forget if it's like, 10,000 hours, if I'm not mistaken, like whatever it is that you're doing, you put 10,000 hours into it, or whatever the time coordinates are, the time frame is, and then you get better and better and better. Like you being in the industry when you first started off in comparison to now, it's like night and day. When I first started off doing PR publicity work for children's authors to where I stand right now, it's like night and day, but then you have more appreciation. You have more appreciation when you take the time to not only take the time, but also to know the fact that practice does make perfect. And then the next spread, Ping taking a deep breath. We have the ability to get so flustered and so stressed, whether it be a child in our life, whether it be ourselves, whether it be our own inner child, right? So the importance of just connecting with your breath, taking a deep breath, just relaxing. I have people that have reminded me over many years, many decades in my life, John, just relax, just relax. And so we're not here to reinvent the wheel when we're sharing this, but these are important reminders that children need to have, that we need to have as adults as well, too, us as big kids. We're beginning to wind down our time with our featured guest here on episode number 233 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, children's book author, illustrator, and publisher, Helen Wu. We are fully immersed in her brand new children's book, Ping's Perfect Pot, courtesy of our friends and neighbors at Beaming Books. Again, who wouldn't want to have their book published by Beaming Books? Such a great name of a publishing company. Special shout out to Zahua Yang, your illustrator, who did an absolutely phenomenal job with your illustrations. If you head on over to Amazon.com, if that's your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, you can, of course, leave a 5-star review for Ping's Perfect Pot if you feel guided and inclined to do so. That just lets Helen know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and for those who love great children's books. If you head on over to your favorite local children's or independent bookstore, your favorite local library as well, if they stock their copy of Ping's Perfect Pot, their copies, plural, fantastic. If they do not, make that kind recommendation. Let them know that you heard about it right here on episode number 233 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. And then, of course, all educators, teachers, principals, librarians, school superintendents, these messages that we're talking about, not just Lunar New Year, but the importance of encouraging your students to take their time with whatever it is that they're doing, right? Encouraging them to know the fact that they can persevere through anything. And of course, just the ability to celebrate, right? The school year is a celebration. If you're celebrating in 2025 or you're celebrating in 2026 or beyond, head on over to Helen's official website, which we've included in the description below, so that you can connect with her to schedule your very own author school visit for your students during the 2025 school year and beyond. Specifically speaking, I'm glad that you also at the very end of the book, you mentioned some Lunar New Year traditions, some customs as well, too. This kind of goes back to, it's like a callback to what it is that we were talking about with Lunar New Year. Could you share with us, obviously we want to encourage people to purchase the book and read all of them. Could you give a couple ones that specifically stand out, because many people are going to be in the midst, not only here in San Diego, across the country, around the world. People are really going to be celebrating Lunar New Year over the coming days ahead and the coming weeks and months ahead.
Yeah, sure. Some very common traditions and customs such as cleaning and decoration. Like before the festival, people thoroughly clean their homes to sweep away bad luck and make room for good fortune. And they decorate with oranges and tangerines, as well as other traditional items such as red lanterns or couplets to bring luck and happiness. And also like reunion dinners, like families gather on Lunar New Year Eve to share a grand feast, and often featuring symbolic dishes like whole fish for abundance and dumplings for wealth. And another tradition is red envelopes. So elders give red envelopes filled with money to children and unmarried individuals as a symbol of good luck and prosperity. And also for lion and dragon dances. So colorful lion and dragon dances performed in streets and public spaces drive away evil spirits and bring good fortune. And for fireworks and firecrackers, so at midnight, setting off loud crackers and fireworks scare away evil spirits and welcomes the new year with a band. And also in New Year, wearing new clothes. So wearing new clothes on Lunar New Year symbolize a fresh start and new opportunities. So Lunar New Year is also celebrated with great enthusiasm in many other Asian countries and communities, such as South Korea, in where it is called Seola, and in Vietnam, where it is called Tet. So, and also in Malaysia, the Philippines, Thailand, Singapore, and many other countries and communities. And each culture adds its own unique customers and custom and traditions to the celebration, and making it a vibrant and diverse festival. So beyond Asian, many cities around the world also host colorful parades, colorful cultural performances, and festivals to embrace and celebrate the rich heritage of Lunar New Year. And even you are not from Asian community, you are so welcome to rejoice in the Lunar New Year and celebrate this universal holiday.
And there's so much that not only that you'll learn about Lunar New Year, not even just in the back of Ping's Perfect Pot, but this is, again, one of the great things about children's books. We'll go back to the callback. We'll take that pin out. One of the pins that we put in earlier is the importance of children's books standing out. And there's so many different things that we learn about, not only as children, but us as adults. And this is a great way to be able to connect kids with the messages, the anthems, what Lunar New Year looks like, sounds like, and feels like. Because for me, for example, I'm 50% Polish, 50% Lithuanian. So I've heard about Lunar New Year. I've seen some celebrations. I have friends and colleagues of mine that celebrate Lunar New Year. But just up until reading Ping's Perfect Pot, I really didn't know like the full specifics, the full gambit, so to speak, of Lunar New Year. The two ways that we always close out every children's book spotlight series, Helen, and we go back to our favorite friend, our favorite neighbor, the late Fred Rogers, of course, the host of the long-running popular children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, that aired for many years, many decades on PBS and PBS stations across the country. And in many respects, most notably, he did this when he won his Lifetime Achievement Award at the Daytime Emmy shortly before he passed from stomach cancer. But he always kept the time, not even just during that celebration and those in the audience, but when he was doing his program, when he was taping episodes in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, when he spoke across the country, college commencement talks, whether it be visiting kids in children's hospitals, he encouraged us. And again, he kept the time, whether it be 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or a full minute. He encouraged us to remember those who helped love us into being. And that was his way of saying, remember those special people in our lives who reminded us of our skills, our gifts, our talents, who reminded us, take the time to do whatever it is that you're doing, who simply may have just inspired us along the way. Who are some of the people that you would like to publicly recognize here on episode number 233 of the Children's Book Spotlight series that have helped love you, Helen Wu, into being?
Oh, that's a really great question. But for me, I wanted to thank my children. Actually, they inspire me to pursue my passion and to be really a role model for them. I changed my major. Never thought I could be an author, to be a published author. But looking at children, looking at my own children, I really understand that it's your life is on your hand and you can really achieve things you set your mind to. And if I have a passion for a goal, I really should pursue it. I should keep going, keep improving, and keep pursuing my dream. And it's not only for me, but for my children, and because that will inspire them to pursue their dreams. Yeah, that's something kind of like a little bit personal, but it's a really important part of why I kind of like get into this journey of as a publisher author, yeah, and a children's book author.
I'm really glad that you took the time to especially give a shout out to your kids as well too, because just as Ping had the support of her grandfather, we all have support. We all have a support system, a team in some way, shape, or form. Again, like a shout out to my grandmother for little Forrest. And it's long since been said, and I'll paraphrase Fred's words, that no matter where those individuals are, whether they are near or far, whether they are still walking this earthly plane or shining down from heaven, that they are smiling, knowing the indelible impact that you are making on children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books as well, too. We also are very big on the Disney magic. So it's kind of like, you know, perfect bookends. You've got Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and you've got Disney, right? There's something about the Disney magic. It reminds us that we have the ability to bring to form and shape our dreams, our desires, our goals, our ambitions. We have the ability to fulfill our own wishes. And in the process, we have the ability to do that for those in our lives, family members, friends, loved ones, clients, colleagues, those whom we're called and blessed to be of service to, our fellow neighbors in the process. And we go back to the year 1992. It was a great year. Hard to believe now, 33 years ago, a long time ago. We remember the late Robin Williams, the beloved comedian, and we remember that he voiced the genie of the lamp in Disney's animated beloved classic Aladdin. So we have a little segment called Three Wishes. So been with us since almost day one here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series. We have our tried and true genie lamp. So Helen, you have given freely to not only your own family, but you have given freely to children, parents, families, educators, those who love great children's books, those who celebrate Lunar New Year far and wide. So this is your opportunity to receive. Now, again, so these are three wishes. Oftentimes authors or authors, illustrators come aboard the program. They're like, I thought this was an interview and all of a sudden now I'm getting three wishes. What's happening? The only automatic disqualifiers, according to the genie of the lamp, are you can't make someone fall in love with you and you can't ask for more wishes, but anything else in fair game is fair game. These wishes, they can be for yourself. They can be for the children of the world. They can be for your own family as well, too. What would your three wishes be?
The first one will be peace, a world of world peace. So I hope there is no war in the world and everyone living a peaceful planet. Yeah, that's my first wish. The second wish will be everyone can find their own passion. I think actually a lot of people, they don't know their passion. It actually takes them years to discover that passion. And I think it will be great if everyone had their own passion and their own dream. The third one will be I hope everyone find their own path to achieve that goal. So it's not like just you achieve the goal immediately, but the path to achieving that goal is also very important. You will actually gain more during the journey than the end results. So I hope everyone will enjoy the journey to their goals and their dreams.
And it's important that you're allowing yourself to receive those wishes. It's long since been said that if those wishes come from your heart, that they have a greater chance of coming true. As I mentioned before, little Forrest and I had the opportunity to read and enjoy Ping's Perfect Pot. If you were a fan of movies and you lived here in the States, or just loved movies for a long period of time outside of the United States even, you remember the late movie critic duo Siskel and Ebert. When they loved a movie, they gave it 2 thumbs up. Well, one of the fastest growing endorsements in the world of children's literature in the KidLit community is when little Forrest gives 2 paws up for a children's book that we're featuring on the Children's Book Spotlight series. And little Forrest and I, again, we had the opportunity to read and enjoy Ping's Perfect Pot. He is proudly giving 2 paws up for Ping's Perfect Pot, which once again, one of the fastest growing endorsements in the world of children's literature. Thank you once again for your contributions to this particular trolley stop. That's episode number 233 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. When we hear the trolley, that means that it is time to go. But fear not, there are many more magical trolley stops to come aboard the program. But first things first, raise your hand if you have had fun on episode number 233 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. We see hands from Helen, hands from myself. We see paws up from little Forrest, hands from the little ones that we see on screen. As we like to say, that means mission accomplished, job well done. Again, we encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course, our fellow shining stars. You can head on over to Helen's official website, which we've included in the description below. If you, of course, head on over to your favorite, well, first things first, if you head on over to Amazon, of course, because that seems that it's what we do regularly for whatever reason or another, you head on over to Amazon.com. That's your favorite online vehicle of your choosing. Be sure to not only purchase, read, and enjoy your copy of Ping's Perfect Pot, but if you feel guided and inclined to do so, leave that 5-star review. That lets Helen know, as well as the team at Beaming Books, that they're doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and for those who love great children's books. Now, if you head on over to your favorite local library or your favorite children's or independent bookstore, and if they don't stock their copies of Ping's Perfect Pot, make that kind recommendation. Let them know that you heard about it right here on episode number 233 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. For all educators, teachers, principals, librarians, school superintendents, remember, Lunar New Year may be happening right now, but you can celebrate it all year long. In addition, the importance of the messages that we've talked about here on episode number 233 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, the importance of reminding your students to take their time to know that they can do whatever it is that they want to do. They can bring into being, to form and shape whatever it is that they wish to create. So you can head on over to Helen's official website, which we've included in the description below, to schedule your author's school visit for your students during the 2025 school year and beyond. And we've also included Helen's social media platforms in the description below. As we like to say here on the program, you can keep this conversation going and flowing. Host Children's Book Spotlight series, because there's just so many more things that Helen is going to be bringing into the world and creating. So you can stay tuned with what's next for her in 2025 and beyond. As we mentioned, there are many more magical trolley stops on the Children's Book Spotlight series. So if you are a children's or middle grade author and would love to share your inspiring story in the release of your brand new children's book on a forthcoming edition of the Children's Book Spotlight series, you can head on over to our official website, prfromtheheart.com, or connect with us via any of our social media platforms that you now see on screen. Instagram, Facebook, X, all at PR from the Heart. We also want to give a little tip of the cap. We've mentioned Mr. Rogers once or twice here on this program. You remember him and you love him as the beloved Mr. McFeely on the popular long-running children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Well, we know him and we love him as David Newell, the gentleman that's directly above my left shoulder. We are rapidly approaching the 4-year anniversary celebration of the sister program of the Children's Book Spotlight series. That is the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. We are super excited that each and every month there are new people who start learning about the program. And that, again, we're going to be celebrating our 4-year anniversary of the program, where we take the time to crack the cover, dive into the pages, and review some of the newest children's books from some of the shining stars in the world of children's literature. If you are a children's author and would love for David and I to deliver a heartfelt review of your brand new children's book on a forthcoming edition of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, you know where to connect with us. You know where to find us, prfromtheheart.com, at prfromtheheart on social media. And we're talking about creation. Just as Ping brought her perfect pot to life, there are many authors across the country and around the world who are doing the same thing with either their first children's book or their next children's book. For over 10 years, we have been privileged, honored, and blessed to be of service to some of the top names in the world of children's literature. including the iconic Sharon Lois and Bram, Skinnamarink Dinky Dink, Skinnamarink Doo, We Love You, in addition to John Parra, Catherine Roy, to those authors whose journeys are just taking flight. If you are a children's author and are looking for dedicated PR support in 2025, for the release of your brand new children's book, to create your own book media tour in a city of your choosing, or a national book media tour, you can head on over to our official website, prfromtheheart.com, schedule your courtesy connection call, and let us see how we can be of service to you. One final time, if you haven't had the chance to do so, head on over to amazon.com, leave a 5-star review for Ping's Perfect Pot. You can also head on over to Helen's official website, which we've included in the description below as well. Head on over to your favorite local children's or independent bookstore, favorite local library. Make that kind recommendation. Let them know that they should stock their copies of Ping's Perfect Pot if they do not already have the opportunity to do that. And again, a shout out to all educators, teachers, principals, librarians, school superintendents. If you want to facilitate your very own author school visit for your students during the 2025 school year or beyond, you can head on over to Helen's official website. We hope that you have enjoyed episode number 233 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. If these messages that we have been sharing throughout the course of this trolley stop together, whether it be the celebration that is Lunar New Year, the importance of taking your time, right? We've talked about that enough that I think that now you should know, Helen, John, I'm going to start taking my time now more than ever before. The importance of persistence and perseverance. There's so many things that we covered here on this particular trolley stop. If this has inspired you, if it's lifted your spirits, if you feel that it needs to be shared with someone in need, especially someone who needs that friendly reminder to start taking their time a little bit more, we encourage you, if you haven't had the chance to do so, subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel. Join the more than 23,000 members of the PR from the Heart family, our loyal YouTube subscribers, and share this very special trolley stop that you have just enjoyed. That is episode number 233 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. We want to thank you for your continued support of PR from the Heart, for your continued support of the Children's Book Spotlight series, for your continued support of children's book authors, middle grade authors, illustrators such as Helen Wu, who is doing, again, wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's book. Big shout out to all of the KidLit creatives out there. For the pillars of our community, local libraries and children's and independent bookstores, for your continued support of them. But above all else, we want to thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world. One final time, we've mentioned him once or twice or maybe thrice. We feel his presence, we feel his spirit whenever we do a Children's Book Spotlight series episode. We feel the presence and spirit in the heart of Fred Rogers. Did you know that Fred Rogers weighed 143 pounds during his entire natural adult life? You might be wondering, Helen and John, why are you mentioning this as you are closing out this particular trolley step of the Children's Book Spotlight? Well, there's an important reason why. Fred, during the program and for many years thereafterwards, and he's doing it from a different place right now, but he has reminded us, he continues to remind us of our inherent worth, our inherent value, and that we're loved and we're special just the way that you are, that we all are. There's one letter in I, 4 letters in love, 3 letters in you. So I think that Fred really knew what he was doing. So it's a little tip of the cap to Fred Rogers. It's a little tip of the cap to little Forrest and Helen, who were kind enough to spend some quality time with us here in our neighborhood. We share our favorite 3 numbers as we close out this particular trolley step of the program. Our favorite 3 numbers of 2, 4, 3. There's 2 letters in we, 4 letters in love, 3 letters in you. We are reminding you of your inherent worth and your inherent value. We see you. We understand you. We embrace you. You're doing a great job, and you're continuing to connect more to your love, your joy, your creativity. And now, again, you're remembering to start taking your time and just enjoy life that much more. So again, you're perfect, you're whole, you're healthy, you're complete, that we're reminding you of all of that, that you're loved and you're special just the way that you are. So for little Forrest, for Helen Wu, for myself, John Masiulionis, thank you for spending some quality time with us here in our neighborhood. Happy Lunar New Year. Enjoy the rest of your January. We look forward to seeing you for another trolley stop here on the Children's Book Spotlight series. Once again, thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Goodbye for now.
Thank you. Happy Lunar New Year.